Hey everyone, you're tuned into Countdown 2019 on Nigeria Info FM. Now this is your #1 talk news and sports station, and on Countdown 2019, of course, we have to bring you everything and more regarding the upcoming 2019 presidential elections. So on this episode, I caught up with Mr. Shina Fagbenro Byron, who is running for presidency under the KOWA Party. He does have a lot in store for us Nigerians with his zero tolerance policy, so make sure you do stay tuned for this episode. He has a lot to say. So, Mr. Shina Fagbenro, you recently announced your contest for presidency under the KOWA Party. Tell us a bit about what inspired you to make this decision and how the journey is going so far.
Thank you very much. As you know, most of the indicators that have to do with human development in Nigeria are not only dire, but call for some concern. Over the past 25 years, we have watched the trajectory of development in this country, and all the indicators now show that Nigeria is tending towards being a failed state, principally because if you look at governance, the economic development, and as well as the social harmony, we have some grave challenges that it will appear that we're not handling very well. Now, for me personally, I have worked in governance for the past 25, 26 years. And we've worked closely with civil society as well, closely with the private sector, but all towards development. The key indicator that gives a lot of cause for concern is poverty, the poverty level in a country that is so rich in resources, particularly human resources. And when you find that and you look at the state of fragility, then one doesn't want to sit down in a cloud of unconcern. And so because of this, and as with many other Nigerians, some of us have to step up to the plate and do something. And this is my offer.
Very much so, very much so. And I think the greatest cause for concern is the lack of attention that we have paid to sustainable development.
Absolutely.
And from everything you've said and given the years that you've worked in government as well, I'm sure you've just seen this decline coming, and this has pushed you to want to do something about it. So what policies would you like to enact into government if you were to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Basically, there are three things. First of all, we need to adopt a zero tolerance for hunger, a zero tolerance for illiteracy, because it boils down to how well we invest in and use the human resources. And when you deal with the issue of hunger, you deal with the issue of illiteracy, you're talking about both the mind and the body of the Nigerian citizen. The third issue is that we need to raise or define what we call the national interest. And for me, the way I define the national interest is, to save and secure Nigerian lives, lands, and livelihoods, and protect Nigerian citizens wherever they may be. And so when we define a national interest that is citizen-centered, I think that's a policy in itself that will determine or, encourage an inclusive society, encourage an open, space whereby people can develop and actualize themselves. We have 180 million people. We have had challenges in managing not only our mass, but in managing the diversity. And so policies that will speak to managing diversity, policies that will speak to managing our size, those are the kind of policies we need to address. I have 5 priorities really. First of all is safety and security. In the context of the zero tolerance for hunger and illiteracy, but safety and security is one, the environment is another, education and health, its principle, innovation and ICT, because I believe that a lot of development can be fast-tracked if we're innovative, if we deploy information technology. This is a knowledge age. We need people who understand that being in a knowledge age is an advantage that we can take on and piggyback on that to do other developments. And of course, the last thing, infrastructure and the economy. But first, it must start with the security, safety and security. We know what's happening in the Northeast. We know what's happening in different pockets of the country. Once you don't get your security right, nothing else will go in place. And of course, the human development, which is education and health, and of course, the environment. There is a threat to Nigeria right now. The Sahara Desert is receding down south at a rate that is so high. In 5 years' time, Nigeria is going to face a monumental threat if we do not deal with climate change issues, particularly desertification. Desertification in the north, erosions in the southeast, the issues in the Niger Delta, all environmental issues. And what does this nation sit on if we don't have our environment to stand on? I mean, that's an issue.
Everything you said just now is extremely relevant, especially in terms of zero tolerance. I really like your zero tolerance policies. And the greatest concern for a lot of Nigerians, especially a lot of people calling in on Countdown 2019 on radio, is they look at the Nigerian political arena and we have two parties that get the majority, and that's APC and PDP. So how does a party like KOWA and a person like you push yourself to a platform where you can contest and receive votes in the same category and number as those two parties that were mentioned?
Okay, fortunately you have what we call a movements of conscience in Nigeria, growing up in leaps and bounds. And the movements of conscience are much greater and bigger than the parties. You have movements like NIM, the Nigerian Intervention Movement. You have movements like Revive Nigeria. You have movements like Yes Nigeria. You have movements, it's not, you see, actually political parties are an exaggeration, right? They're an exaggeration of representation of the people. The political parties, no matter how wide they are, can't fully represent the people. It is the movements, it is the social movement, it is civil society. And this is who are the people we're going to appeal to. Now, hunger is something that doesn't know tribe, color, creed. And people begin to feel what is called poverty in Nigeria today. Now, people have had an option of 16 years of PDP, and we've seen where that's got us. The alternative, which was APC, was a contraption put together, which apparently was built with leftovers of PDP, and we've seen the results of what they're producing. Basically, it's a party that is the APC, has its own contradiction within itself, and the way they deliver in terms of their governance is in a matter that is, I mean, the contradiction is reflected. Within the agri sector right now, you have a conflict between livestock and herding and farmers, and that is within the same agricultural sector. In foreign affairs, if you look at what's happening in there, we have contradictions in there, the way we manage our foreign affairs. In the health sector, there are contradictions between the Minister of Health and the NHIS. Every sector in this government currently now speaks of incongruence and contradictions, which is premised on the nature of the party itself. So for me, I don't really have a business with any of the two parties. I have a business with the Nigerian people, the Nigerian movements, which I am very much a part of. KOWA Party may be small, but it was founded by professionals and civil society groups. And it's a party that wants to listen and doesn't want to provide its own solution, but wants to listen. And is ready to move with any of the movements and align with like minds to be able to take Nigeria to the next level, present the kind of offer that Nigerians themselves can associate with. The most important thing is to be accessible to the people. And I believe that KOWA Party has that. You know, the name of KOWA speaks for itself. It's a party which has meaning in 3 different languages. KOWA in Yoruba means let it come. KOWA in Igbo means explain to us. And in Hausa, KOWA means all of us. So it's not an acronym in itself. So we're going to play on that. We're going to use that. We're going to appeal to the Nigerian people. But it is up to the Nigerian people themselves to face their oppressors. If the people are not ready to face their oppressors, then there is an issue. Nigerians must realize that politicians will not take them seriously, except they demonstrate that they can hire and fire politicians.
Very much
And
so.
that's the only way.
Very much so. At the end of the day, this is a democratic country, so
Absolutely.
we should be able to have the final say. Now, speaking of the final say, we had some recent revelations and reports reaching out to speaking about the Cambridge Analytica and their role in the 2015 and 2011 elections in Nigeria. Now, this has caused an uproar in the media. A lot of people are extremely confused as to how people can use psychometrics to genuinely influence their votes. So given this news, what advice do you have for citizens voting in the upcoming elections?
Well, the citizens, first of all, I'll ask the citizens to be very much alert. A lot of people are tagging onto social media and using social media as a leverage, but there are two sides to technology, and what can be used can also be abused. I am looking onto civil society to be able to educate the masses. But beyond that, we need to make sure that the electoral management body we put in place understands these things. We all need to be alert. It's very difficult. I mean, it's new. Things are happening with Cambridge Analytica border on the use of technology and being innovative in a negative way though be it, but that's innovation. Something else might come up tomorrow. How do we know? Okay, we know this is now using biometrics, but we need to be alert. We need to keep an eye on what is happening. There's a limit to what the ordinary citizen can do about it. You'll ask him to vote, he will vote. You'll ask him to join social media, something, he'll do that. But data is being collected in several ways. As we know, there is a World Wide Web. But for every World Wide Web, there's a spider in the web. What we don't want to do is to adopt a technology that we don't fully understand. We do not want, that's why when the INEC wants to do, they're trying to bring in innovation and automation into the elections process, fine, that's good. But I think we should also we should also be a bit more sensitive to the full gamut of what these tools can be used for or what they can be used for. The most important thing is to be vigilant.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Now, also speaking of that, a lot of people have registered, a lot of parties have registered. We've had 68 new parties registering with INEC to these elections. Now, people who have called in have often mentioned that is it going to take these parties and forward thinkers actually coming together under one platform to genuinely move forward and drive APC and PDP out of the Nigerian political arena?
Yes.
What is your viewpoint on that? Do you think that is what it might take, or are you hopeful in these parties, including yours, individually standing alone? Of course, KOWA have more of a name than 68 new registered parties, and KOWA have more of a platform. But do you think it's going to take a collaborative effort from these parties for there to be an actual change in the Nigerian political arena?
To an extent, it will take some element of collaboration. But what I do not want is that in the process of collaborating, you lose your identity and you lose your ideals. There is a way you can throw away your ideals and, an identity out of the window because you're looking for accommodation. The point is this: we have a mission in this country, and it's not a mission exclusive to KOWA alone. It's a mission for all Nigerians, to make a Nigeria that works for all of us. Now, in that process, let everybody, it's like let the grass grow and the weeds grow together. At some point in time, water will find its level. At some point in time, the Nigerian masses will be swayed. At some point in time, when candidates start to emerge, it will happen. The basics of team building. There's a forming stage, there's a storming stage. Eventually, things will normalize. So at this point in time, let's get to know the parties, let's get to know the people. The people have to do their homework too. People have to pay attention. We have to interrogate our leaders. One thing I'd like to say is that there are several ways you could start sifting out, right? And closing the space or limiting the space does not help anyone at all. Competition actually breeds efficiency to a very large extent. It's happened in the private sector, it can happen in politics too. What I would urge, and the media, the fourth estate of the realm, has a role to play. Look, any candidate that doesn't want to debate is a candidate that does not want to be accountable. Any candidate that shies away from a debate, or if the media should protect a candidate from coming out to debate, that's it. So this is between now and next year, March, when the elections are coming on. There are things that the media can do. There are things that will happen in the society that will sift and reduce the numbers, or at least bring more focus. Right now, the environment is a bit dusty, it's clear, but the dust will settle. It will settle, and when the dust settles, we'll see clearly.
In the 2015 elections, 40 million registered voters did not vote. Many reasons that were brought to our attention included security and logistics. What role do both INEC and citizens have to play in ensuring that in 2019, the future of Nigeria is not decided by under 30 million citizens again?
Okay. The number one reason why a number of people didn't vote is lethargy, voter apathy. People just felt that their votes were not going to count. And that's been, a recurring history. As a matter of fact, 2015 was much better than before. And that has led to that. So a lot of voter education on the part of INEC, a lot of voter education, a lot of confidence building. INEC has to demonstrate that it is indeed an independent arbiter. And then secondly, I believe that the social environment and the times and the consciousness of people is speaking to a situation whereby people know that, this generation is a defining generation. People must step up to the plate and do something. There's no point sitting at home and complaining, So the candidates are, the nature of candidates, the type of candidates, the quality of candidates is sufficient to inspire people out to come out there and vote. So when you have uninspiring candidates, then you have a problem. If you have more inspiring candidates, people will tend to go out. But simply put, civil society has a great role, media has a great role, the political parties themselves have a great role to play. And of course, INEC does have a great role to play.
Yes.
Build the confidence of our people and let them know that their votes will count.
Very much so. Now, many people believe that voters' decisions in Nigeria are predominantly based on ethnic preference. How can we work towards overcoming barriers leading up to the 2019 elections?
That's a very good question, Laila. The issue in Nigeria is that there's been a lot of ethnic and religious, fracture, in the society. But you see, hunger is a denominator. It gets to a point. There's some signals coming out now that people are looking less towards that. The Northern Elders Forum came out with a statement and they said, look, in these times, we're not really going to bother about where you're from. Look, there is a problem. Nigerians know what to do when they need something. When you need somebody to take care of your child, and he's a doctor, you go for the best doctor. If you need somebody to take care of your car, you go for the best mechanic. If you need somebody to take care of, any issue that is very important to you, you go for who will have that quality. That is the kind of message we need to send out to people. And in any case, people are beginning to understand. We've had Muslim before, we've had Christian before, we had people who claim this and that before, we had Northerners before, we had Southerners before, and people have seen how they have performed. The issue is that all these sentiments, right, do not speak to capability, they do not speak to the willingness to be accountable, and they do not speak to the responsiveness of the individuals that govern us. So the issue is to be able to draw attention to the people in terms of what they need. And there is no state that doesn't have an oppressor. There is no religious group that does not have an oppressor. There is no ethnic group that does not have within itself those who are oppressor or people who are corrupt. And this is the kind of narrative that we should be able to throw out there and let people know. The problem is that Nigeria needs to be fixed. Nigeria has a problem. Do we have the people who have the capability to be able to fix it? If we do, yes, then go for them. And if we don't, God help us. But I believe we do. Nigeria is the best kept secret on earth. I think we have the most beautiful people. I think we have rich human resources beyond measure.
And we have a lot of untapped resources.
And a lot of untapped resources.
Now, Mr. Shina Fagbenro, yes. I am about to let you go, but before I do, tell us what makes the 2019 elections so crucial.
It's so crucial because this is a defining generation. This is a time when Nigeria is going to come of its own. I believe this is a time that it's a make or break, but I believe and I'm sure that it's going to be a make situation. I think the times are very critical in the life of a nation when you get to a tipping point and you recognize it. I think Nigerians themselves have recognized that they have gotten to a tipping point. I've told you of issues concerning crime, climate change. You also have global issues that are capable of causing some real fracture, in the global space. And I think Nigerians are conscious of this. Everybody's looking for their space to create, to evolve now. And everywhere in the world, every Nigerian knows that, look, east, west, north, or south, home is best. And we're not really the place, the gift that God has given us is Nigeria and the Nigerian state. And I believe that we're sensitive to this. I believe that 2019 is critical. For me, it's critical. Incidentally, in they say, the race, the good book says is for everything in life, it's not, the race is not to the fastest, not the fight to the strongest, but to every person, time and chance. The time for Nigeria is now. A chance has been created because we have learned from the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have the experience and we can choose. And I believe that together we can make a difference.
Okay, everyone, I do hope you found this interview insightful. A lot is in store for us Nigerians coming up to the 2019 elections. Mr. Shina Fagbenro did mention all his policies, and he did give us an insight into his opinions when it comes to voting and why we should all take a part in Project Nigeria. I hope you found it insightful, and do stay tuned for Countdown 2019 every Friday on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM, your #1 talk, news and sports radio station. It has been a pleasure. This is your host, Laila, and I will definitely see you next week.